Twelfth Night. And what should I do in Illyria? This video focuses on a short section from near the start of Shakespeare's play, namely the opening of Act 1, Scene 2. Although this is the second scene of Twelfth Night, some productions swap it with the first scene in order to make it the opening of the play on stage. Such a decision definitely has merit, as the scene has a strongly introductory quality and puts the focus on the main character of the play, the much-loved heroine, Viola. The setting of the scene is usually shown as a sea coast, where Viola is with a ship's captain and various sailors after their ship has sunk and they've been carried safely to shore by the ship's lifeboat. Viola's twin brother Sebastian, who was aboard the ship, is not among the survivors on shore. I'm now going to read you the opening 4 lines. Viola begins by asking a brief question, which is answered equally briefly by the ship's captain, and Viola then responds to what the captain has said. What country, friends, is this? This is Illyria, lady. And what should I do in Illyria? My brother, he is in Elysium. I'll repeat Viola's last 2 lines as I want to spend some time considering them. And what should I do in Illyria? My brother, he is in Elysium. I think we can possibly hear these lines spoken not so much as a reply directed specifically at the captain, but as a thoughtful aside, a mini soliloquy in which Viola muses on the very different fates of herself and her missing twin. The musing is triggered by the captain's use of the place name Illyria, which the intelligent and sensitive Viola immediately picks up and links to another place name of a kind, Elysium. By doing so, Viola is engaging in a piece of wordplay, and I'd like to examine how this wordplay works. First of all, where the words Illyria and Elysium are placed in the text is crucial. They each come as the last word in a sentence and the last word in a line of verse, so matching each other exactly in their positioning. They also match each other very closely in their sound. Both words have 4 syllables stressed in the same iambic pattern. Both have the same vowel sounds throughout, and both have an identical first syllable. The 2 words then sound very similar indeed, so much so that they might be heard as more or less the same. As well as being brought closely together by their positioning and sound, Illyria and Elysium are also similar types of words, place names, though it's here that their similarity ends, as Illyria is, or was, an actual place on a map, the country in which the play is set. And Elysium is a name from ancient Greek mythology for the mythical world of the blessed dead. Living human beings inhabit Illyria, but the dead belong to Elysium forever. The world of the living can have nothing to do with the world of the dead. There can be no contact between them. Yet Viola, speaking of these totally different worlds, employs names for them that are very similar to each other. This similarity brings the 2 worlds together in order to show paradoxically that they're not alike at all, but the exact opposite. It's as though their echoing closeness makes them collide with each other for a moment and then immediately hurtle apart. This hurtling apart, this sense that Viola and her brother Sebastian are now separated forever, is brought about by her wordplay that enables her to express by means of a rhetorical shock effect the sheer pain of her grief. At the same time, though, the very fact that words are being played with lightens the tone, brings in a certain wry, rueful humour that enables her to acknowledge her grief and perhaps begin to cope with it. I now want to go on from the opening 4 lines to what follows in the conversation between Viola and the ship's captain. I said earlier that Viola's lines about Illyria and Elysium may perhaps be seen as her thoughts spoken aloud. But in the next line she speaks, she breaks out of her thoughts to address the captain and other members of the ship's crew as follows. Perchance he is not drowned. What think you, sailors? We have here a clutching at hope by Viola, a clutching that may be seen either as eager and urgent in tone or plaintively timid and tentative, depending on how the line is actually delivered on stage or how we choose to hear it in our private reading. The reply to Viola's question is, as at the start of the scene, again made by the captain, who picks up Viola's word perchance, which she uses in the sense of perhaps, though in another example of wordplay, he changes its meaning to by chance. And this idea of chance, which of course could well work out for good, this idea continues in the lines that immediately follow. To complete the section under study in this video, I'm now going to read the rest of the dialogue, beginning with the lines I've just examined. Perchance he is not drowned. What think you, sailors? It is perchance that you yourself were saved. Oh, my poor brother, and so perchance may he be. True, madam. And to comfort you with chance, assure yourself, after our ship did split, when you and those poor numbers saved with you hung on our driving boat, I saw your brother, most provident in peril, bind himself, courage and hope both teaching him the practice, to a strong mast that lived upon the sea, where, like Orion on the dolphin's back, I saw him hold acquaintance with the waves so long as I could see. For saying so, there's gold. Mine own escape unfoldeth to my hope, whereto thy speech serves for authority, the like of him. In what I've just read, I'm sure you could hear the clear change in tone that Shakespeare gives us when the captain begins his second speech, which, as he says, is designed to give Viola comfort by assuring her that there are grounds for hope. This speech of the captain, which consists of one long, fluently confident sentence, is delivered by a man with all the authority of a seasoned mariner who's used to witnessing events at sea. Note the insistence by the captain on his first-hand experience of what happened to Sebastian. I saw your brother. I saw him, so long as I could see. Note also how Shakespeare makes us appreciate the captain as an old sea dog by spicing his language with 2 nautical terms, driving and lived. The former word meaning driven by the wind, our driving boat, and the latter meaning stayed afloat, lived upon the sea. The whole speech conveys a strong sense of vitality and vigorous virtues in the picture it presents of Viola's brother's actions. The captain describes Sebastian as provident in peril, the alliteration hammering home the idea of resourcefulness being brought to bear in a dangerous crisis. And the captain's coupling of two strong moral qualities, courage and hope, gives a powerful feel of excellence of character being employed to counter adversity. The concluding detail of Orion on the dolphin's back, a reference to a Greek myth that was much loved in Shakespeare's period, is a final heartening touch to the account, and Viola's immediate action of giving gold to the captain shows clearly how her spirits have been lifted by what he's told her, as well as indicating her own instinctively generous nature, which will be seen again later in the play. The Viola we saw at the start of the scene, speaking with rueful plaintiveness of the unbridgeable gulf between the worlds of Illyria and Elysium, is therefore followed by a Viola who has gained new confidence that all is not yet lost. There remains for her the great virtue of hope. And in her final sentence, she repeats this word, hope, first used by the captain. Hope that her brother may have survived the shipwreck, just as she, his twin, has done. I'm going to finish this talk by leaping to the end of Shakespeare's play and saying that Viola's hope that her brother has survived is, of course, finally rewarded in a marvellous reunion scene where her brother Sebastian appears on stage with her for the first time in the play and speaks the beautiful, poignant words that express both old grief for terrible personal loss and also new joy in life returned. The words, thrice welcome, drowned Viola. In saying this, Sebastian shows us that, for him as for Viola, the beloved twin feared to be drowned is finally, joyously found to be alive. And so both brother and sister know each other to belong, not to the world of the dead that is named Elysium, but to the land of the living in the world of the play, Illyria.